Are we motivated?
Motivated!
Are we good to go?
Good to go, sir!
Morale! Mappers win!
Hello, welcome you to the Insight segment of the Ajoya half-hour program. I'm Brendan Amadi. With me here from my immediate left,
Ugu Jennifer, Iziamaka, and Ikere Bowakman.
we are here on the discourse with the topic immorality. Immorality is a violation of moral law, norms or standards. When something is not moral or when something is immoral, it is inconsistent with rectitude, good moral, purity, and is contrary to the divine law or conscience. We'll be discussing on some issues bordering immorality, which on the last, there will be key for suggestive remedies. We commence with the first speaker that assists us on the way family members can help each other gain and maintain moral freedom.
Okay, when we say immorality, like you already said, it's about doing something that is not being justified. It's not being accepted in the society, or with you to your own self. You know what you're doing is not right, but you still go about to go ahead to do it. It's not just about sexual immorality. It could be your lifestyle, the way you talk to people, even employers not being able to pay their employees. It's not right. So that's actually an immoral thing to do. Or there are some things people say, just name words, could be moral to me. So when we talk about parents being able to mold their children in a moral way, parents are always the first people, like the first set of people we interact with. Like we grow up with them, so they have a vital role to play in a child's life. They have the right, they are the ones who mold the children to become what they have to be in a society before they get to the society, because the society has a way of influencing children. So if you are not careful, if you don't train your child in a moral way, when he or she gets to the society, it could be a total damage to the society. So parents always have a very vital role in the lives of the children.
Thanks for your contribution on the role parents play towards the maintenance of moral freedom amongst family members. We can also go a long way to hear from the second speaker the stand of the church in the fight against immorality.
Okay, in addition to what he said earlier, immorality has to do with things that are bad, things that are not being accepted, not just in the society, but wherever you find yourself, in your family and even in the church. Now, bringing immorality to the church now, this is something that the church kicks against. It is totally unacceptable. So now, there are various aspects of immorality we find in our society that people push into the church to make it look as a bad place, which is not it. Now, people go to church to steal, which is very wrong. People go to church to cause so many havoc, which is actually totally wrong and against the scripture. Now, coming towards the aspect of sex in the church, you can see that some people tend to violate people even inside the church. There are various news flying up and down, like in the past years, how people were being violated in church. These are things that are not accepted. Going back to the Bible, in the book of Acts, Paul spoke about immorality, how it is against the body of Christ. These are things we should try as much as possible to avoid, even in our churches. Now, it is the responsibilities of the church leaders now to bring everybody together and to talk to them on how to tackle certain things, how to behave themselves, So now, we don't just leave the job to the pastors alone. The church youths, there should be somebody in charge of the youth to curtail all these things. There should be somebody in charge of the children also to be able to guide them on what is right and what is not right. So even we ourselves, we can stand as leaders in the church to help talk about immorality and how to help children stay away from such acts, not just in the church alone, but in their homes and even in the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer, for throwing light on the stand of the church in the fight against immorality. Without much delay, let's look at the situation of the youth towards this issue, because it's quite unfortunate that in recent times there seems to be high rates of sexual immorality amongst the youths in this present generation. So what's the way forward, or what's the role of parents towards this development?
Okay. When we talk about youth being sexually immoral, it could actually be out of peer pressure.
Yes.
Maybe you're seeing your friend doing some kind of things and you actually don't even know what she's doing, and you'd want to feel her more. Okay, you want to go out of your way.
Like showing some sense of belonging.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it might lead you to do something you wouldn't do on a normal day. So because of that, the influence of your friends would make you do something you wouldn't want to do. Then it could also be in a case of, okay, let's just say there's because of where your background, your society, your environment, where you grew up from, probably you didn't have this Christian background, and people around your society or your environment where you lived actually had this carefree life.
Yes, and they lack such a moral
Exactly.
standards to an
So
extent.
you growing up with that could actually be a problem to the society and to you as you grow up, because you feel there is nothing wrong. You feel you're right because you didn't have the guardians of your elderly person or
And
your
the people
parents.
around
Yes.
the
So whatever
environment.
the people in your environment did, you felt it was right. So you grew up with that. So that could also be a problem.
Okay. So when you were saying that maybe environment also contributes to such negative side of life.
Yeah.
Maybe when a grown up is within the area, the people around are not motivating with all the right ethics schools get along with. Well, I agree with your idea, because I think just like when you talk about child upbringing, environment is also a factor.
Yes.
So when the child is not being moderated, it goes a long way to follow the wrong path. And maybe Jennifer has more to say about this.
Okay, I don't really have much to say on this fact because she actually threw light on it more. Like, on the aspect of environments impacting or being an influence to how we behave, I actually agree with that because where I actually grew up, I think I had similar experience to that, where people don't regard anything as anything. Like, they just do whatever they like. They don't care if it's a bad thing or it's a good thing. So we being moral or we trying to be moral or good seems like we are challenging them. That's why, like, growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends because of the kind of environment I grew up from. So now, a little advice I will actually chip in for, okay, to this kind of life, trying to avoid such kind of people, is you stepping out, getting out of your comfort zone. Because if you find yourself comfortable in that kind of place, you get to find out that with time, you start giving into what they are doing, even when you don't have the intention. Yes, even when you don't have the intention of doing that. So getting out of your comfort zone, changing location is one thing that will help you move out from such immoral acts, especially when, like, it's getting too much. Like, there was a time growing up, okay, I think then I was still in secondary school, like, it was very rampant. Everybody was getting pregnant. Like, it was a normal thing. They saw it as a normal thing. Nobody talks anything about it. And it got to a point that even in my family, they're like, are you sure you're not doing this thing? Like, it got to a point that I and my sister, they have to check us every now and then to be sure that we've not derailed from our original self. So what am I trying to say in essence now? To bring out yourself, to be different from them, step out from where you are, go out entirely, so that you will think differently. Your mind will be reframed to the kind of person you want yourself to be, not to picture whatever is going on around where you grow up from. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
So stepping out of your comfort zone is one thing you need to do to stay away from immorality. Now, you don't need to wait for your parents to start cajoling you to do this, do that. At least give yourself sense. As a youth, step out.
Okay, you know when you say stepping out of your comfort zone, totally. See, even if you want to step out from your comfort zone, if you didn't have the right upbringing, you will still step out of your comfort zone and still not be able to have a moral
that
life.
actually plays to body. It's talking to yourself. Now, this draws back to talking to yourself.
Yes, I think in
and
addition
giving yourself
to this,
sense, not even bothering about
When
your
you say
family.
giving yourself sense, you know, right from the start, you didn't even have the right guardian, so you weren't able to differentiate what was right and what was wrong. So it still boils down to our parents. You know, as a child, if you're growing up and probably you pick a meat from the pot and your parents come, your mommy comes and spank you, you know that thing is not good. So you will not want to do that again. So if you were in a family that you could just sneak and pick meat from the pot and nobody sees you, you will still want to do that the next time. And before you know that, it escalates to something else. Maybe you would want to pick money. Okay, it's just 10 naira, let me just pick it and nobody will. So stealing, all those things are there. So if you don't even have the right upbringing, it's a problem.
yes, I agree with you. I also think just like when you say going out from the environment also contributes, and then stepping out or learning some morals, and then parents playing their role. I also believe, I think also in a way, self-discipline
Yes.
matters.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
because
true.
if a child, for example, has made up his mind that no matter the situation I find myself here, I won't move with that, I won't flow with that. I believe even when he steps out from the environment, or even at least even if he stays in that environment, he may not be in a position to emulate the wrong side of their behavior. Okay, that's very nice. I don't know. Let's look at the way of science and technology. That is, for example, the advent of science and technology over this issue has also made some negative impacts on the life of youth, and in a way has given rise to this issue of immorality. I just want to know if an opinion, one or two opinions from each of you on the way science and technology, whether it has done more harm or even more creative results in the life of the youth towards this immorality.
I wouldn't say it has done more harm because technology is good. And with the way things are going, I think we're actually more of the technology people that we don't really have regards for the natural things that we done naturally. Okay, just like, okay, sometimes you would, okay, like if okay, with this technology, like a child could pick up an Android phone, browse, go to websites that are not, okay, that are adult websites that are rated 18, and there are some images and there are some videos a child sees which might affect the child if the child does not have, okay, yeah, when we talk about sexual immorality, you know, probably I didn't have the intentions of doing anything bad sexually, but probably I went to a website because we have technology. I went to a website and I saw some things I would want to try, or probably I might just have an idea of what it's all about. So the technology has its own good side and has its own bad side on people. Like social media, the things you see on social media, there are some, if you are not a strong-minded person and if you're easily influenced, and you
Let us try.
seriously.
All right. Thank you very much for this contribution. We cannot end this discourse without looking at the ways forward, the ways we can curb this immorality in the society, raising generation today.
Okay, on that I can actually say a little about, this is more like talking about the guidelines to prevent immoral acts in society. Now, I'll say one thing we should look forward to, or we should look at, is considering the consequences of what you're doing. That's one point. Now, for example, let me just use immorality as a whole, not just sexual sense. Now, if okay, let's assume a child needs something, like maybe he asked his parent and he didn't get it, and is thinking of maybe stealing from somebody else. You know that sometimes people don't really think before they do things. So maybe he just have this notion, okay, let me just steal from this person, then I will do whatever I want to do. But they don't consider the consequences of what they are doing. What if I'm being caught? What happens to me? So it applies to other immoral acts, even sexual stuff, like maybe you having an affair with somebody. You're not thinking of the consequences. You're not thinking of if you're getting pregnant or you're going to get affected or infected with sexual disease and all that. So considering the consequences is one thing we should put in our head before doing something bad, which I know most of us, most youths, if like for example, if you catch a thief now and you like after beating him and all that, and you sit him down and ask him, why did you do this? You get to find that at the end they will end up crying because they didn't have the intention of doing that, but just because they needed something to be done, they did not think about what would before them before doing it. So what am I trying to point out?
Being conscious.
Being conscious of what you want to do. Yes.
The consequences.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's hear from our guests.
Okay.
And the ways forward of this.
I would say be mindful of the things you do. Be mindful of the friends you keep, because our friends do have a big influence on us sometimes.
Yeah.
Then our parents should try as much as they can to make it known to their children the right things and try to school your child. No matter how much you love your child, try to school your child when he or she does something bad. Then try as much as you can to support your child. Always listen to what your child has to say. Try as much as you can to support your child, both physically, spiritually, and financially. So that no matter what that child says outside, the person will be like, even my parents will try to give me that. So with that, a child would always believe that, okay, no matter what happens, even if I can't have all of it, my parents will always try to give me a little bit of it. So parents always try to support their children financially, physically, spiritually, and just be mindful of the friends you keep. You yourself should also be conscious, as in tell yourself, you should be able to know what is good and what is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your wonderful opinion, the way you handle this issue, and the suggestive remedies you gave. In case if you are joining us on this program, we just discussed immorality, issues and controversy, and finally we gave a suggestive remedy and the way forward it could be curbed in the society. Thank you once more for your opinion. To you out there, thank you so much for joining us in this program, as we encourage you to always keep in touch with us. Goodbye.
Mora! Mapas win!